Once upon a time, there were 4 little rabbits named Flopsy, Mopsy, Cottontail, and Peter. They lived with their mother in a sandbank underneath the root of a very big tree. One morning, Mrs. Rabbit told her children she was going to the baker's to buy a loaf of brown bread and 5 currant buns. Before she left, she gave them a strict warning. You may go into the fields or down the lane, but don't go into the farmer's garden. Your father had an accident there. He was put in a pie by the farmer's wife. After their mother left Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail, who were good little bunnies, went down the lane to gather blackberries. But Peter, who was very naughty, ran straight away to the farmer's garden and squeezed under the gate. First, he ate some lettuces and then some French beans. And then he ate some radishes. Feeling a bit sick, he went to look for some parsley. But round the end of a cucumber frame, whom should he meet but the farmer? The farmer was on his hands and knees planting out young cabbages, but he jumped up and ran after Peter, waving a rake and calling out, "Stop, thief!" Peter was terribly frightened and rushed all over the garden, for he had forgotten the way back to the gate. He lost one of his shoes among the cabbages and the other shoe amongst the potatoes. After losing them, he ran on 4 legs and went faster, so that I think he might have got away altogether if he had not unfortunately run into a gooseberry net and got caught by the large buttons on his blue jacket. Peter gave himself up for lost and shed big tears. But his sobs were overheard by some friendly sparrows, who flew to him in great excitement and urged him to try and escape. With a final struggle, Peter wriggled out of his jacket, leaving it behind him, and rushed into the tool shed, jumping into a can. It would have been a beautiful place to hide if it had not had so much water in it. The farmer was sure Peter was somewhere in the tool shed, perhaps hidden underneath a flower pot. He began to turn them over carefully, looking under each one. Just then, Peter sneezed. The farmer was after him in a moment and tried to put his foot upon Peter, who jumped out of a window, upsetting 3 plants. The window was too small for the farmer, and he was tired of running after Peter. He went back to his work, but Peter was lost and very damp from sitting in the can. He wandered about, not knowing which way to go. He found a door in a wall, but it was locked. An old mouse was running in and out over the stone doorstep, carrying peas and beans to her family in the wood. Peter asked her the way to the gate, but she had such a large pea in her mouth that she could not answer. He then tried to find his way straight across the garden, but he became more and more confused. Presently, he came to a pond where a white cat was staring at some goldfish. She sat very, very still. Peter thought it best to go away without speaking to her. He had heard about cats from his cousin, Benjamin Bunny. He went back towards the tool shed, and suddenly he heard the noise of a Hoesier rich scratch, scratch, scritch. Peter scurried underneath the bushes. But presently, as nothing happened, he came out, climbed upon a wheelbarrow, and peeked over. The first thing he saw was the farmer hoeing onions. His back was turned towards Peter, and beyond him was the gate. Peter got down very quietly off the wheelbarrow and started running as fast as he could go, along a straight walk behind some black currant bushes. The farmer caught sight of him at the corner, but Peter did not care. He slipped underneath the gate and was safe at last in the wood outside the garden. He ran and ran, never stopping until he got home to the big fir tree. He was so tired that he flopped down upon the nice soft sand on the floor of the rabbit hole and shut his eyes. His mother was busy cooking. She wondered what he had done with his clothes. It was the second little jacket and pair of shoes that Peter had lost in a fortnight. Peter was not very well during the evening. His mother put him to bed and gave him a dose of chamomile tea, but Flopsy, Mopsy and Cottontail had bread and milk and blackberries for supper. Now, let's continue with the tale of Benjamin Bunny. One morning, a little rabbit sat on a bank. It was Peter's cousin, Benjamin Bunny. He was watching the lane that went down the hill, and he pricked his ears to listen to the trundling of a pony cart. In the cart were the farmer and his wife. Benjamin knew they were going out for the day, which meant he could pay a visit to his aunt and cousins. He hopped off the bank and went to the big fir tree where they lived. Benjamin found his Aunt Rabbit was not home, but his cousins were there. Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail were playing in the woods, but Peter was moping by himself. He looked dreadfully sad and was wearing a red cotton pocket handkerchief instead of his clothes. Benjamin sat down beside his cousin and asked what he had done with his clothes. Peter explained that the scarecrow in the farmer's garden was wearing his jacket and shoes. Benjamin declared that it was ridiculous to be afraid of a scarecrow, and since the farmer was away, they could easily get the clothes back. So Peter and Benjamin set off for the garden. They got in not by the gate, but by climbing down a pear tree. They landed in a flower bed, and from there they crept along the wall until they found the scarecrow. It was dressed in Peter's lost blue jacket. Benjamin said the first thing to do was to get the clothes back, but Peter was not feeling very brave. His jacket had shrunk a little in the rain, but it was a good fit. Benjamin tried on the scarecrow's tam o' shanter hat, but it was too big for him. Peter was still anxious. He said he thought he heard a noise. Benjamin, however, was not scared at all. He suggested they fill the red handkerchief with onions as a present for his aunt. Peter didn't dare to disagree, so they went along a path between beds of vegetables. Benjamin was a bit too casual for Peter's liking. He kept stopping to nibble on things and was taking his time. Peter kept looking about for any sign of trouble. They passed the very spot where Peter had lost his shoes. And then Benjamin spotted It the White Cat sitting on a wall, watching them. Benjamin said it was time to go, but before they could, the cat jumped down from the wall and started to chase them. They had no choice but to hide. They slipped under a large basket that was lying upside down in the garden. The cat then jumped on top of the basket and sat there for 5 long hours. Peter had a cold, and the smell of the onions was quite strong, making his eyes water. Benjamin had no such issues, but was worried because his father would be looking for him. After a long time, they heard a pattering noise. It was old Mr. Benjamin Bunny, Benjamin's father, searching for his son. He was a brave old rabbit. He didn't see the cat at first, but she saw him and looked up. Mr. Bunny was not afraid of cats. He jumped off the wall, landed on top of the cat, and kicked her into the greenhouse, locking the door behind her. Then he took out his switch and gave his son a good scolding. He pulled Benjamin out from under the basket by his ears and then rescued Peter. Mr. Bunny marched the two little rabbits out of the garden holding a switch and the onions. When the farmer returned home, he was puzzled. The scarecrow was undressed. There were tiny rabbit footprints all over the garden beds. And, most mysteriously, his cat was locked in the greenhouse. As for Peter, when he got home, Mrs. Rabbit forgave him because she was so glad to see that he had found his shoes and jacket. And that is the end of their adventure. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more classic stories